and grab him a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy?
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. So the format of the show, if you're new to the show, I'm sober now, but I used to like to drink and talk shit, talk shop, talk about old drinking stories with my buddies. And I'm going to keep that going. Even though I don't drink anymore, it's fun reliving the past. And I will do it by myself, or I will have a guest in. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by a very funny comedian and co-host of the Fullcharge Power Hour podcast, Mr. Craig Coleman. What's going on, man?
Hey, man. How are you, brother?
Good, good. So you are out in LA doing it, living the dream.
Yeah. Living the dream.
And for those of everybody listening, plug everything up front, Instagram, Twitter, podcast, everything you want to plug. Go ahead and let them know.
Oh, yeah. At Team Coleman 76 is my Twitter. I don't do Twitter too much, to be honest with you.
I hate it so much.
Yeah, I don't get it almost. I'm old man Coleman, so it's for me, it's just like, who, huh?
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a comedian here in Jacksonville, and she was like, oh, if you just have a thought, you just tweet it. And that's how Twitter works. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with that at all.
Right. Yeah, that's like literally the worst thing I could do.
Yeah.
I have to think about it, you know. That's how I get in fights. Oh, and Craig Coleman 76 at Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I'll friend you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I moved to LA. It's kind of like, you know, when you're from a place like Bakersfield, it's just like you can only go back to Bakersfield. So
yeah,
I'll go anywhere, you know.
Well, yeah, and for the listeners, I'm obviously a fan of you guys and the Fullcharge Power Hour, and I've been listening since before it was even that. I remember I started listening to Charge back when he was on like your mom's house or something, and that's how that's how I came to find you. And if anybody looks you up on YouTube, it's actually, I know you guys have talked about this, it's actually a pet comedian.
Yeah, he gets way more hits, so he comes up way before me. I've gone to shows and they've actually had his face on
I remember
on the thing. And I'm like, this guy, come on.
And that's the one where, because my last name is unique, but my first name is Brennan. So obviously there's Kevin and Neil and all those guys.
Sure.
Dude, so every time I go anywhere that's like where it's people who know comedy, it's always like Brennan, like Neil. And I go, it's my first name. Like, what? Like, no, not even a little bit. But you live in LA now, Orange County area, but you are from Bakersfield, and before that, Washington, and you lived in Alaska for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, did the West Coast pretty much.
I was gonna say you've been all up and down. When you so what, for the listeners, what prompted you? Because you grew up in Bakersfield, am I right?
Yeah, like we moved to Bakersfield when I was like 10 or 11.
Okay, and that was from Washington?
Yeah, from Moses Lake, Washington.
Okay.
Usually when you tell people you're like, oh, I'm from Washington, they're like, oh, it's beautiful. I'm like, yeah, not that part. I lived in the, you know, there's a Marsscape part of Washington State, which is just this desert and it's just dead. I mean, just flat and dead. Yeah, it's just gross. And Mount St. Helens exploded and just dumped on our town. Yeah. And like, I want to say within a year, my dad's like, we are out of here, dude. Yeah. And he was like, you know, we're going to California. So you're like, yes.
Yeah, that's the thing about California.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, where I live in Florida, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, no, not that part. Not the part you read about.
Not that part. Exactly. So when we got to Bakersfield, he's just like, we're here. And I go, yeah, I thought we were going to California. And he goes, yeah, this is California, dude. This is Bakersfield. He goes, yeah, most of the California stuff you're thinking of. He goes, yeah, that's in two places. That's in San Diego and LA. And we're not going to either one of those.
Same thing. It's Miami or Orlando. Like we're not, and sometimes Tampa. I'm like, no, we're not. Jacksonville's not that part. We're basically lower Alabama. Like, I don't understand what you guys think this is. Every time I think of Bakersfield, now tell me how close I am. I always think of like a Borderlands video game or like Tatooine, just because I assume it's in the desert. And it's just like a bunch of rough motherfuckers out there.
It is a bunch of rough motherfuckers. People Like I know other people, they've thought I've exaggerated, and then they were in Bakersfield, and then they just saw somebody get, two cars get in a fight at a stoplight, and they were like, wow. And I go, yeah, dude probably honked his horn and it was on.
Yeah,
So,
that's not, and that it blows my mind because you understand that. And I understand that. Anybody from Florida or Bakersfield, it sounds like, understands that.
Yeah.
Like I used to date a girl and she was from up north, but like the country part of up north. You know what I mean? Like the East Coast, but not really the East Coast.
Right.
And like people would cut her off and she'd like flick them off and like honk at them. And I'm like, you're going to get us both killed. Like we're going to get murdered. This is Duval County. Everybody has a gun here. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. There's certain places you should just not do that.
Yeah, it's insane to me.
Yeah. No, Bakersfield's definitely like people are just ready to go. And it's swampy looking desert. I mean, it's like, hills, lots of hills and stuff. But and then part of it is just flat as hell, but and hot as Hades.
Yeah.
And we try to say we're Southern Californian, but most Southern Californians won't accept that. Anybody like in the LA area, you say that, they go, you're more central.
Oh, really?
And I go, well, according to the Mexican prison gangs, Bakersfield is where the South ends. So I go by
technically
that.
We got it. Yeah.
Technically, that's it. That's Soreños, my friend. So I'm down. I'm down with that.
Now, did you get into a lot of trouble growing? How long were you in Bakersfield for most of your formative years, right?
Yeah, because like I was just a nerd in Moses Lake. I was just a good kid. Yeah. Like on my last week, this is how nerdy I was. On my last week, we rode our bicycles downtown to the police station, and we toured the police station, which is like a room in a jail.
Yeah.
And then we had, we went and bought a cookie for the cop that gave us the little tour.
Oh, wow.
And I think back of that and I'm just like, what a dork.
Yeah.
Because like my cousin from California who was trouble, he came up and a cop would drive by. He'd be like, I smell bacon. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, who does that? And then,
lots of people.
Yeah. And then turns out lots of people.
I was driving to work the other day and because the listeners know I've been arrested 8 times. Like when I was drinking, I get in trouble all the time because I was pre-law in school. So that was enough to where, you think you know everything.
Sure.
It's just and honestly, it's a fancy way of saying I majored in political science, but I can't get girls at the bar by saying I'm majoring in political science. It's
not
just
as sexy.
Yeah. It's just like pre-med. It's like, no, you majored in biology and then took the MCAT and then went to medical school. Like, who the fuck are you trying to kid?
Right.
But, I thought I knew everything. So like I would get hammered by myself and then being all loud in my room, like playing Xbox or something. And the cops would bang on the door because there's always apartments or dorms. So it was either the campus police or the actual police. And they'd bang on the door and be like, fuck you. You can't come in here, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Right. And just like, I know my rights, when literally all they have to say is like, well, we think this is probable cause, so we're going to come in. That's all they need. And I learned that a very hard way. But
true.
I used to be such a piece of shit when it came to cops. And now I'm indifferent because like I'm not a huge fan of the police, but at the same time, like I understand that. I don't know if they have this in California, but in Florida, they have something called resisting arrest without violence, which I've been arrested for a couple of times.
What?
Which is
sounds slippery slope. What is it?
So basically, resisting arrest without violence gives the police officers jurisdiction and discretion to put anyone in handcuffs.
Oh, I got you.
And a lot of times
you can't touch me. I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Fuck you guys.
Yeah, and then they'll just arrest you. Yep.
Wrapped it up. I can tell you they do not have that here because I've seen people get in the police face here.
Oh, really? Yeah,
that's stand there and they're like, all right, buddy.
That doesn't work in Florida. They can just. And then a lot of times the case ends up getting thrown out. So like in my case, I was like a junior in college and they banged on the door and they were like, hey, we're going to come into this. This was an actual party. And they were like, we're going to come in there and we're going to ID everyone. And whoever's name is on the lease, if there's anyone in here under 21, you're going to jail. And I said, fuck you. You don't have a warrant. And I slammed the door. And then I turned around thinking that the walls were soundproof.
Yeah.
And I turn around and I scream up to my roommates and everyone at the party. I go, can you believe this dumb bitch cop thinks she's going to come into our house?
Oof.
And I walked upstairs thinking like high-fiving and like, fuck
Oof.
yeah. Not even 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. Not a pounding, but a knock.
Yeah. Oh, that's even scarier.
I thought it was the pizza I had ordered. So I went
Yeah.
running downstairs, opened it. She ripped me out.
Like
I was white privilege incarnated. She ripped me out and slammed me on the ground, put her knee behind my neck, arrested me, and I do this. I tell the story on stage, but it's so hilarious. She arrested me. She whispers in my ear, "Who's the bitch now?"
Yeah.
And then the charge was resisting arrest without violence. So I go in front of the judge. I'll represent myself. I don't need a lawyer. And the judge literally goes, okay, why were you arrested? And she's looking over the report and she goes, resisting arrest without violence. And then she turns to the prosecutor, the state prosecutor, and she goes, what was the original charge? And they go, there wasn't one. She goes, so you brought this in front of me, resisting arrest, but he wasn't being arrested? And they go, no. And she went off on the prosecutors and threw the whole thing out. But it's like, and that's normal. And my cases, that's what has happened to me the 2 or 3 times I've been arrested for that. But it's one of those things where you're still getting arrested. Like you're still going to jail.
Whole point. You bet. That's their whole point.
So like I said, I'm indifferent when it comes to police, but I don't go around like your cousin, like who brought the fucking pigs? It's like, we're all going to die. We're all going to die.
Yeah. I always had that opinion. Cause my dad set me down when I was young. He's like, check it out, dude. He goes, you get pulled over, cops come to talk to you. It's yes, sir, no, sir.
Yep.
He goes, I don't give a fuck what's going on. He goes, dude, those guys got guns. They got badges. They can end your life. And, he goes, you get some crooked ass cop. He goes, most of them aren't. He goes, most of them are just regular dudes doing a job. He goes, but you get a badass crooked cop who just doesn't like your dumb ass. He'll slip some dope in your pocket. He goes, you're gone. He goes, no one's going to believe you. You're a jackass.
That's the thing too, is like, and that's the scariest part. It's like, oh, if you do one little thing, like and I learned this because I spent when I was in jail, one of my jobs was I was a trustee at a substation. And it's so bizarre. You always meet the coolest cops when they're not the ones arresting you. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's always like, man, I would have let you go. Sure. I don't understand what that guy's problem was. I would have just let you go. That doesn't and I'm like, where the fuck were you?
Right.
Where was this cool, relaxed guy? But they were telling me, they were like, if they really want to, especially because it's different state to state, but they would say if they really wanted to, like if they tried to pull you over and you went just a block without actually stopping because you wanted to get to like a safe place or something, they could nab you for fleeing a scene.
Sure.
And I was like, wait, you can do, they go, man, we can stack charges like you wouldn't believe.
They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. And I was like, that's bananas.
I mean, the stuff gets thrown out or whatever, but they can throw it on the paperwork.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then that's the thing too, is you get that big stack and then they're like, oh, well, you can plea out for this. And it's like, man, if you would have gone to trial, that none of that would have stuck. But it does, like, I know, because I've been in that situation. It's like, you're so terrified. You're like, yeah, whatever you say, like whatever to make this go away.
You bet, dude. They got the power, dude. They can be scary or they can be chill. I work with police like all the time.
Yeah, because you do the site rep thing.
Yeah. So the city sends out 2 police or a fireman, and so I for the first time in my life I've had to talk to these people on just a regular level. And if I'm working Metro, I got my Metro badge. They think I'm Metro, so they're totally cool to me then.
Oh yeah.
And they'll tell me stories that are just like, whoa, like unbelievable. They got some horror stories, but they're so dead to it. They'll just laugh like, oh, you remember Chief when you'd come in, there'd be a dead body in the hotel room and he'd be smoking a cigarette, eating pizza. And you're like, what?
Oh my God.
You're like, I couldn't sleep for a month or ever again. And then they're like, yeah, that dude, he's been on the job so long, it's nothing.
That's insane to me how you can get that numb to it. Like,
yeah. That's just your regular job,
That's just your regular job.
And they've shown me pictures, dude. These fuckers have pictures and they don't tell you.
No, right? They never do.
They just go, check that out. And you're like,
oh my God, that's terrifying because
like, that guy's headless. Oh my God.
I was going to say, I remember in high school when people would just email each other like those beheading videos and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And like they wouldn't say anything. And you click on it, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like
thanks.
I can't unsee that.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Oh my God, people are fucking the worst.
Yeah, dude.
Hey man, check it out.
Check it
No,
out.
the hooker's dead too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God,
You're
that's
like,
rough.
wow.
Did you ever have any run-ins with the police when you were in Bakersfield growing up?
Oh my God. Yes. Like Bakersfield police, and I've told LAPD, oh, I'm from Bakersfield. They go, oh shit. They go, those cops are crazy.
That's like when whenever I'm anywhere else and I strike up a conversation, I go, yeah, I'm from Jacksonville. And they're like, they kill, like those people kill people. Like
I was just gonna say, there's a competition every year between the sheriffs and the BPD of who can kill the most people. It seems.
Oh my God, that's fucking horrific.
And it ain't even on a racist level. I mean, I don't
it's
care
just
what color you are, dude. You do not run from those cats.
They're counting bodies. That's all they care about.
Yeah, you don't look at them wrong. You don't reach for a toothpick, man. They're like, bah, 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 bah!
God,
Like you're down. Yeah, I've been pulled over. Just when I was young, like, you know, and when I think back, I'm like, yeah, I looked like a dumb young punk. I would have pulled me over too.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember I got pulled over once, tripping balls on mushrooms, like hard, like, oh my God. Shouldn't have been driving. Copy that. Shouldn't have even been behind the wheel. Absolutely not.
I had a nickel for every time.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You
so
got
he was,
me.
yeah, he was justified. And I don't know what he really pulled me over for, because he was a K9 unit. And he pulls me over. He gets me out in front of his car. His lights are going, you know, so I'm like peeking hard on these mushrooms, and the lights are just
yeah.
And I'm just standing there like, be cool, be cool. And then the cars on the road are just, you know, they're just like these stretched out lights.
Jesus.
And you're like, okay, yeah, we're cool, we're cool,
we're good.
And the cop, you know, he gets my license out and he's like, what's your name? I'm like, Craig Coleman. And then he looks in the back seat, you know, where the dog would be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the windows are tinted and you could see through the front window. And I could see it was just the dog was back there. And he's like, but maybe there was someone in there. I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
And so it looked like he was talking. And again, I'm on mushrooms. And it looked like he's talking to the dog. Like, is this Craig Coleman, you know? And then he looks,
this guy. Then
he asked me, what's your address? And I say it. Then he leans into the dog again. And I'm like, is he talking to the fucking dog? Like, what is going on?
Because you're all tripped out.
Just tripping hard. Like, dude, this dog's going to send me away. Because, you know,
right
away.
Something I don't know.
Yeah, right away, my brain's like, dogs are smarter than people. Like, maybe this dog's reading my vibes. So then I start in my mushroom brain. I'm like, let's send some good vibes towards this dog, man. Let's get one with the dog. And the dog's going to just... And after he just asked a series of questions, he just hands me my license back. And he's like, have a nice night.
Oh, shit.
Be safe. And I'm like, yeah, I will. And, you know, I got a carload of people tripping too. So they're all sitting there like,
oh, so you had people with you?
Yeah, there's like 5 people in that car. And we're all going to jail. Everybody's going to jail. Are you guys ready to go to jail? And I just get back in the car and everybody just looks at me like quietly, like, and I go, yeah, seatbelts on, guys.
Here we go.
We're going home. We're going back to where we were tripping. All right. And we just drove away and we were all just like, whoo. Oh my God.
Damn.
Thank God.
That's intense. Oh my God. I know I've been pulled over one time where I actually got let go. I used to make the joke because I have an older sister, and she's, you know, she's very pretty and everything. So I was like, man, she's been pulled over 12 times and gotten 0 tickets. I've been pulled over like 4 times and gotten 12 tickets. But I remember the only time I ever kind of like skated like that, I was hammered in college coming home from the bar. And I went to college in South Florida. So like they've got like legit gang violence and stuff like that down there. Like, well, you know, in California. So I got pulled over by a gang unit. Like, I was all over the road enough to where they're like, this isn't our responsibility, but it's kind of our responsibility.
But we got to take it. Yeah.
So they light me up big, you know, those big Suburbans, like everything's tinted out.
Oh,
like,
sure.
You know, the big grill, like, so they could smash into shit and stuff.
Yeah.
Guy walks up to me and I'm on the side of the road looking at my apartment window. Like I'm that close. Like I can see my light on. And the guy walks up full like stormtrooper gear, like you know what I mean, like helmet, shoulder pads, like gun, taser, baton, like second gun, walks up with a rifle, holding a rifle. So not only all that other stuff, but holding a rifle.
Homeboy is ready.
I'm like, this is it. Like, here we go again. Like, you know, because at this point I had not gotten a DUI yet. And I'm like, this is what, you know, this is what happens. I drink every day. This is bound to happen. And as the guy walks up, he's like, where are you going? And I said, home. He goes, where are you coming from? And I said, the bar. Like, I wasn't even going to try and bolt because normally I'd be like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. But this guy was like serious. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing when it's like a beat patrol cop and you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. You're like, you know, I could outrun you. Like, look at you. But when it's like stormtrooper Darth Vader level shit, I was like, nah, I was at the bar. You got me.
Right.
And then as he's like, well, we're gonna need you to step out of the car and take. And as he's saying this, I hear his radio go off, and he turns to his guy. He goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "Home. My house is right there. Like literally, that's my apartment with the jersey hanging in the. You can see it in the window. That's my jersey." Nice. And he was like, "We got to go. So just go home." He's like, "We will follow you into this community. If you do not park your car, we're arresting you. But if not, get out and go upstairs." And I was like, I don't know what kind of violence was ensuing on the other end of that call, but
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Like I was like, all right, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
That's happened twice for me too, where it's just like something else happened and they just let you go. Me and my buddy Ronnie, we got pulled over because we would always just ride around and get stoned.
Yeah.
And lit up in the middle of, you know, halfway through a joint or hotboxing the car.
Was this in Bakersfield?
Yeah, because every time I've been pulled over, it's been in Bakersfield. And then he rolls his window down, and it must have looked like the car was on fire from like his angle, all the smoke pouring out. I mean, it was like a Cheech and Chong movie. It was just ridiculous, you know. You're like, you know, I'm like, oh, this is it. I mean, this isn't good.
This is definitely it.
Yeah, this is definitely it. I go, this guy's probably gonna get high on the way to the car.
Is this before or after the mushrooms?
Yeah, this is probably around the same time.
Okay. Because I didn't know if in your brain you're like, I got away with it once.
Yeah, like 88 to 92 was kind of a woohoo.
Yeah,
you know, 18 to 22 was just a fucking ride.
Yeah,
and so we roll the windows down, smoke's just pouring out, and the guy walks up. He goes, "Hey, you know, you got a tail light out?" And my friend Ronnie's like, "No." I didn't. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to write you up for that." And we're like, he's like, yeah, fine, that's great.
Of course, yes,
that's
sir, officer.
Great. Let's get that going and we'll be done with this. And before he even gets his pen out, all of a sudden behind us, you hear like some car rear-ended another car, and he just comes back, throws him his license. He's like, "Today's your lucky day." And he's like, "You don't know the half of it." And then he went to handle the accident, and we were just like, yes,
oh my gosh,
let's finish this joint.
Thank God we didn't throw it out.
Yeah, totally. That was the other part.
Oh man, that's insane. Because I just think back on like all the times where you just get, because I am now incredibly just with authority figures. Like I hate authority figures. Like, you know what I mean? Like on paper, Does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah.
But like if I'm around an authority figure, be it a judge or a cop or even like my boss at work, I'm super respectful. But then in my head, I'm like, nah, fuck authority. Like, you know, it's almost it's like the story you guys were talking about on the last show, where it's like you wear the Rage Against the Machine shirt to the job where you're getting paid by the by the machine.
By the machine. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very much that mentality, which is probably why I do comedy. But it's just so bananas, because it's like in my head, I'm like, you can't do this. But what comes out of my mouth is like, yes, absolutely, no problem, 100%. But it's just so bizarre, because like you see a lot of this stuff that's like just in the news and kind of the stuff that's going on, and it's like, but it's like you said earlier, it's like, no, they could do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, eventually there are repercussions, but that, like, the damage is already done. So it's just,
right. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
I think back on all the dumb shit I used to do, and it's like, yeah, you deserve to go to jail, you piece of shit.
Yeah, I think I didn't go to jail because I played the yes or no sir
Yeah.
card like all the time. I mean, the one time I probably was definitely gonna go to jail, we got pulled over one night and we were up to no good again.
Yeah.
Me and my homeboy were up to no good. And he had like fucking 2 8-balls of crank on him. I had like this vial of just made like maybe 1,000 crosstop pills, which is basically speed.
Oh God.
I mean, you know, we probably had like $2,000 worth, you know,
yeah,
maybe $1,500 worth of dope. But
yeah, it's an 88 to 92, baby. Anything goes.
You know, basically 5 years. 5 years is what that was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, easy. Yeah, because they don't fuck around with powders.
Yeah,
and once you get into that zone, you're fucking. That's a 5-year wrap. Probably out in 3.
Yeah, out in 3. Yeah.
All of my criminal friends, you tell them what you were doing, they could tell you like, oh, that's 18 months, dude.
Oh yeah.
I can do 3 years. You get out in 18.
They changed the law in Florida from 60 to 80% when I when I went to jail. So they were like, man, back if you would have came in 6 months ago, because at the beginning of the year they changed it. They're like, man, if you would have been here 6 months ago, you would have only done
60%
this much.
Of your time.
But now you got to do 80. They're like, man, that sucks. We're all grandfathered in, so we about to be out of here, but it sucks for you.
Yeah, so this guy pulls us over and you know, and we're both wearing, you know, flannels. My homeboy, he's got long hair, Mexican dude, and I'm like shaved head, you know, punk rock, and just we looked the part.
Yeah. You look like you're up to no good.
Yeah, we absolutely looked like we were up to no good. I would have pulled us over. I'd be like, look at these 2 shady bastards.
They honestly thought they were going to drive by us looking like this and we weren't going to do anything? Absolutely. The fuck's wrong with them?
Right, in this neighborhood?
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. So we're sitting in his car while he's tossing up my car. You know, no warrant, no whatever. But yeah. And all of a sudden, and my buddy looks at me, he goes, no worries, dude. He goes, all the dope's in the cop car right now. And I go, not all of it. I go, I forgot my shit. It's in the car. And all of a sudden that dude opens the door and he's just like, you fucking piece of shit. He's like, and he held it up, you know, he goes, you're going to fucking jail, motherfucker. He goes, you fucking make me sick, you piece of shit. And he just kept going with that. And I'm just like, oh no. And then he got a call over the radio.
Oh my God.
They found the guys they were looking for. We fit the description. And he comes, you know, he yanks us out of the car and he's just like, you fucking, this is your lucky day, motherfucker. If I see you again tonight, he goes, I swear to fucking Christ. He goes, I'm going to take you down. He threw my shit in the gutter and stepped on it. And he's just like, God, I want to see you go to jail, you fucking lucky bitch. And then they took off, you know, and we got away with that. Yeah. Well, we got caught again later that night. The sheriffs this time roll up on us. Yeah, dude. This is the last night I hung out with this dude. So I was like, wow, you are a magnet for this shit. And we were spray painting this road. It's called
I love how you go, you're a magnet for this shit. So we were spray painting this road.
Exactly.
Together.
It's called Not a Through Road, and it was one of the party spots because it's just this dead end road. And so we're spray painting it. And I mean, a huge mural, you know, my initials. First of all, my initials.
Is it actual like art? Are you guys like really doing it, or
we're
just
no
like
good at
around?
it?
Okay,
yeah,
but
we're no good at it, but we're trying. We're trying.
That's what counts.
Yeah, that's what counts. We're on speed. We're fucking spray painting a road that no one uses.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, these sheriffs, you know, they roll up with their lights off and then just light it up. And we're like, oh, God. And there's nowhere you could have went anyway. Yeah. It's like
because it's a no through road.
Yeah. So it's just field in both directions. So they just roll up and they're like, what's going on here? And we're like, oh, nothing. He goes, did you spray paint this road? And I'm like, yeah. And my buddy's all, no. He goes, let me see your hands. And like the colors of the road are on our hands.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, I'm not going to play that game. I'm like, these guys aren't dumb. And then the cop goes, what do you spray paint? And I go, my initials. And he goes, oh shit. He goes, Craig Allen Coleman. He goes, hey dude, look. To his partner, he goes, it's his fucking name. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, dumbass, all right. So they just told us, get out of here and,
wow.
and knock the shit off. And
look, it's his name.
Yeah. And I was done for the night. That was a wrap for me.
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, dude. I took him home. I went home. And then I talked to him a couple days later. Dude, that guy then went out because he decided he wanted to go get some rocks.
Oh,
so
shit.
He went out to that part of town and something happened and he wrecked his car.
Damn.
Ran off. Ended up getting arrested again that night.
3 times in one night.
3 fucking times. Just like, Jesus, dude. Jesus. 2 was enough for me.
Yeah, that's it's weird too, because looking back, I know you've got a lot of these stories that you're telling us are kind of similar, where it's like, where like you look back and you're like, how am I alive? Like, that's crazy. But then I've got friends that, like, I know just in the circles that I run with, like between going to rehab and halfway houses and detoxes and stuff, like I've met people that have become like friends, like good friends over the course of the last few years. And it's just bananas, because they're like, that, like, just like that, like your buddy being like, yeah, so then I went back out because I went, and you're like me, who's been arrested 8 times, done time in jail, like all this like dumb shit. And I'm like, the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, seriously. When do you not know when to quit? Damn.
Oh man, people are bananas. So you don't drink like really at all, is that correct?
No.
Has that always been a thing for you?
No, I've I always did socially, and then I did always when I did stand up.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped like maybe 7 years ago.
Oh damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think I drank once. Me and Matt went on the road.
Yeah, I remember you telling that story.
Yeah, and I drank, and I was hungover so horribly. Marijuana was the only thing that could pull me out of that that hole, and I was just like, yeah, I am out, dude. I'm such a lightweight now.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Oh god, it's funny because when did you first start doing stand-up? Like where did you do it? How old were you?
Like my first stand-up was I would open for my friend's band in Bakersfield, in his apartment. And they became Korn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to?
Yeah, so it's most of the band Korn, with a different singer.
I forget sometimes because I've listened to you for so many years that I know that. So I'm like, yeah, totally. And then I'm like, oh wait, nobody, like people listening might not know.
Yeah, back then they were called LAPD. My friend Richard was the singer.
Yeah.
And they were they're different. The LAPD is a completely different band than what Korn is. But so you got Reggie, James, and the drummer David were the core of that band. And they pretty much became the core of what is Korn. And then Brian came in. Brian, we've all known Brian since we were kids.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, I didn't know Jonathan. I didn't meet Jonathan until Korn was already a thing.
Till it was Korn.
Yeah, because he was a younger kid and he went to a totally different school.
Oh, really?
So I just didn't know him. Like the only reason I even knew David, because David's like 2 years younger than me. He lived around the corner from me.
Oh shit, that's crazy.
And like I was like the cool kid who could play drums. And then these younger kids that like, were my friends, they were like, hey, Craig, can David play your drums? And I'm like, sure, kid. And
you toss him the sticks.
Unbelievable. Seriously, dude. Unbelievable. Like, you're like, what? Huh? I didn't know that
I
was
get
possible.
so mad at stand-up when that happens. You get these new kids that come in and I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it 10 years. We'll put you on a showcase, kid. And then they destroy and I'm like, I'm going to go fucking kill myself. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Beginner's luck. It's beginner's luck.
Do it again, David.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That's awesome, man.
I don't know how they found him. Maybe it was Richard that found him, to be honest. And Reggie, once they started doing their thing, Reggie's just like, hey, dude, we're moving to LA.
Yeah.
And he goes, you need to quit school.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's like a sophomore or a junior in high school still. And he's like, huh? And Reggie just put it to him. He goes, yeah, dude. He goes, you can go to LA, pursue this band thing with us, or you can just stay in Bakersfield and rot away and die like everybody else. And he's not wrong, because there was other very talented bands that never left Bakersfield, and you've never heard of them.
Yeah, and that's because you see that you talking about that with Bakersfield, and then I've seen it obviously in Jacksonville and then Daytona, where I'm originally from.
Right.
Like obviously I know it more from stand up, but there's bands in Jacksonville that tour and like do the bar circuit and stuff, and it's like you guys are really good. And even nowadays with the internet and everything, it's still like you should probably go somewhere.
Yeah, you got to chase it, man.
Yeah, or because sometimes they're like, oh well, we'll put our stuff up on Instagram, and if people will find us, and I'm like, yeah, but do you know how much work you could get just being outside of a venue talking to people? Like how much, you know what I mean? And I'm like, just go. And they just don't. So that's awesome that happened with Korn when they're like, no, you can come or not. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. He went and got his GED and he bounced.
Damn, that's crazy. And so you used to open for them doing stand up?
Yeah, I would do stand up and I was terrible. I mean, it was just like, I was like, what, 17, 18. I had nothing to talk about. You know what I mean? I'd tell jokes, sex jokes, had sex twice. I don't know what sex is really like. And, so yeah, I would open for him at their parties that they would throw. Or I would go. And then when we moved to LA, I would go up and do some stand up. I opened once for My Chemical Romance in Bakersfield.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that was fun because I met those guys briefly before they made it again.
Okay, yeah.
These are always way before anybody makes it.
I've got some of those stories with comedy, just like comedians that now are getting real big. And I'm like, they did a showcase one time. Like I worked with them and people are like, what? And I'm like, they weren't that person then.
Yeah. Yeah, Judah Friedlander used to do our show in Santa Monica like all the time.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Daniel Van Kirk came into Jacksonville one time and did a show, and then a buddy of mine who was running the show was like, "Hey, you want to open?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then I did, and then like 6 months later, he was playing like the comedy club circuit in Florida, and I was like, "Yeah, we, DVK,
way back.
We go way back.
That's my boy."
Meanwhile, he doesn't even know who I am, but it's like, we're cool.
Totally, dude. Totally.
Did you, when you first started doing stand-up, did you get bit by the bug? Were you like, this is something I want to pursue, or was it kind of like just like a fun thing? Or
I always wanted to do it just because I really, I grew up listening to like Richard Pryor records, Steve Martin records, and I was a class clown, and I could always make people laugh. I wasn't the coolest ever, but I could always make people laugh, and I could always get, friends, girlfriends, whatever, just from that.
If you can make them laugh, you can make them breakfast.
Damn straight. There you go, dude. So I was like, this has always been my way in, so maybe I should try it. And then when I moved to Alaska, that kind of stopped. That any dream kind of stopped, because you're like, oh, well, now I don't live in the world.
So you went from Bakersfield to LA to Alaska.
Yeah. I'll explain that. So, we went so then I moved to LA when they, probably a year after they'd already been there, and we hung out, they played shows, and, it was really cool. Yeah. We would do, just hanging out at these dingy little nightclubs, but, my buddy quit the band. And then I was just like, well, fuck, why do I want to be here now? Like, it ain't gonna be any fun. No shows. Then why? And at the time, I just didn't feel like doing the LA struggle.
Yeah.
And so I went back to Bakersfield and fell into a meth hole. I
don't mean to laugh, but
yeah. No, it's
just someone who's fallen down quite a few holes myself. I'm like, I understand that completely.
Yeah, and thinking back, I'm just like, God damn, like in a million years, I wouldn't hang out with any of these people or go do any of the shit that we did. There I was.
Yep. That's like when I got done with college, long story short, I had a settlement for like $26,000, and I was like, well, I'm gonna move back to Daytona, and I spent it in 28 days. And had you asked me like 2 years prior, like, oh, you're gonna go back to Daytona and blow like 30 grand in a month on booze and drugs, I'd be like, the fuck I am. Like, no, I'm not.
Who would do that?
Yeah. And then you fast forward, it's like, no, here I am. This is happening.
Oh, I can already see that would have been a good time.
Yeah.
I would have been right there with you. I've been like, hell yeah, Brendan, let's go get another fucking 8-ball, dude. Come on. It's only 9 o'clock.
It's only 9 o'clock. Let's do it. So you go back to Bakersfield and you fall into the up to no good crowd again.
Yeah, because like all my buddies at the time were selling that shit. And so it was free. It's not like I spent a bunch of money on it. It was literally free. And so like I hung out with these dudes. We were just a bunch of punk rockers. Like one of my friends, in fact, like this is how I discovered most of my punk rock. We're just driving, just fucking cranked out of our minds, and he's just like playing some music. I'm like, what the fuck is this? He's like, it's the Dead Kennedys. And I'm like, never heard of this. And he just ejected it and he goes, play this until this tape breaks.
Oh wow.
You know? And it was on. I was just like, oh, this is fantastic.
I love it so much.
Exactly. My heart's about to fly out of my chest. And these guys, like, here's a night. So one night we're all sitting there. I'm not proud of the story I'm about to tell. It's not a great story.
That's what the show's all about, man.
Yeah. And so we're all sitting there, all fucking, jacked up on speed. And we hear this, whoosh, someone hit a car. We go outside and it's my dad's GTO. So this dude had rear-ended my dad's GTO.
Oh, shit.
Vintage car or whatever.
Yeah, that's a nice car.
It was. And luckily it just took out the tail light. And my buddies, like, I'm one way, but these guys are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They automatically grab the shotgun because the dude started to drive away. So they block him off in the street, shotgun.
Oh,
and
shit.
It's just some kid, just some young Latin dude. And he's just like, I don't have insurance. He's like, I got money. My uncle's got money.
Yeah.
And so my buddy, who's like really big, he's like 6 foot something, and he's just a stocky corn-fed, and I think he was from like Colorado or some shit.
Country strong.
He gets, we take the shotgun and we go follow them. He gets in that dude's car and he's like, we're going to your fucking uncle's. And the whole way there, you can see the shadow of him pointing and yelling at this dude, like,
holy
you fucking you do this, you do that, like, I'm gonna fuck you up. So we get to that uncle's house, and it was almost like in a movie scene where it's like all lit up by headlights,
Yeah.
And so we're all standing on the lawn, and this fucking uncle, my buddy's got his 12 gauge out.
Jesus.
Like if the cop just drove by, we like,
this sounds like a scene out of Training Day.
It was, it was ridiculous. But this old Mexican dude, like, now that I think back, I'm like, how hardcore was this motherfucker? He came outside, he didn't bat an eye to the shotgun. That didn't even mean nothing to him. He wasn't afraid of it.
Didn't even register. Didn't even like.
Wasn't afraid of none of us.
Yeah.
He whips out this wad of cash, right? Fully, dude has a shotgun.
Yeah.
Could have just robbed him. But that's how unafraid of us he was. He whips out this wad of cash, counts out 5 bills, boom, hands them to me, turns his back to us, and walks back in the house. And we all like, cool. But now years later, as I thought about it, I was like, damn, dude, that was probably a way scarier guy than we thought he was.
You even could have even imagined.
Yeah, that guy was probably like cartel strong. And he's just like, I want these white boys off our lawn and the fuck out of here. And so he just.
Yeah, and it's probably one of those things too, where it's like, my nephew hit their car, so I'll
whatever.
pay for the car. So he's probably thinking of it like not even registering you guys, like just like, oh, he hit your car, here, I'll give you the money for the car. Like doesn't see the gun, doesn't see everybody there. He's just like, here you go. He turns around and walks away.
He saw the gun. He like looked at it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like it's like
I hear you. But he was just such an old school dude.
God, that
didn't even bother him. Didn't even bother him. Just.
I know you're into those mafia guys too. That's like that kind of shit.
Yeah,
it's like
that's what I'm saying. I think that guy was like just a hard, not afraid of a lot of shit kind of dude. Like he could tell, like, you guys are a bunch of punks.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like, oh, you guys are so cute. You think you're gonna do something?
Because like his brother or whatever was standing up at the porch was probably the dude that we should have been aware of.
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason
3 or 4 guys trained on you right when you pulled up.
Exactly. There's a reason I'm standing back here and just keeping my eye out on all this.
God, that's insane. My dad's
It
the kind of guy
was.
where he's like really into the mafia stuff because he's in sales, so he used to go to New York all the time, and he'd always tell us these stories about like, yeah, I ran into so and so, you know, because he'd go to these bars and nightclubs and stuff, and
Sure.
but now, you know, that was 20 years ago, so now it's so funny because my girlfriend and I, we were supposed to be in New York City already, and my dad's always, it's like he always wanted to be like mafia adjacent. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
watched the
yeah.
guy. He's always like, hey, when you get up to New York, I'm gonna give you this guy's number. You give him a call. You have any trouble up there? And I'm like,
That's
Dad,
so
that was
great.
26 years ago. Like that
That's
guy's
so
probably
great.
dead.
Yeah, guy's probably not even alive.
Oh man, yeah, because we were supposed to go up there April 1st. That was supposed to be my big, like, all right, we're gonna do comedy now, and then the world stopped. So that was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had an apartment picked out and everything. I was texting.
Oh, you were
Matt.
doing it.
Yeah. We were supposed to sign our lease April 1st, and then March we went up there beginning of March to look at all the apartments, and then March 24th, her job called and my job called and was like, hey, restaurants are all closed. Like your guys' transfers are off. And the broker was still trying to get us to sign. They're like, you can sign the lease electronically. Like, don't worry about it. Just get up here and then you'll figure it out. And we're like, no,
Yeah, we're good. No job, no way.
Yeah, we're all right. So we're still stuck in Jacksonville, but
Wow. Okay, dude. So you're going to New York.
yeah, I mean, that was the plan. I mean, it's still
Make
the
the
plan,
move.
but it's
Hell yeah, buddy. Hell yeah.
I got to do something. But what happened? So you're in Bakersfield again. I got sidetracked. I'm sorry about that.
No, all good, dude. Oh yeah. So the summer of, I want to say 89, 90 was a wild one.
Yeah.
Like that shotgun incident, that's part of it. And then maybe a lot of LSD.
Yeah.
A lot of LSD. And then the month where I was just like, this shit is like out of fucking control. Like I would end up being in in places like mobile home parks with people I didn't know.
Yeah.
Who had like garbage bags up on the windows so that the sun
foil.
wasn't gonna fucking bother them.
Yep.
You're like, it's 5 o'clock. You're like AM, PM.
Yeah.
I don't. That means nothing.
Time's a social construct in here.
Yeah. And so, and I just kind of would look around and be like, what am I doing, dude? This guy's like 30 something years old, like fucking shooting meth in his neck. Like, oh my God. Yeah. Gnarly people. And then, weapons and it just got weird. And then, so my buddies, I go to see my buddies who are dealing, and there's this guy there and he's with my friend Kevin. Now Kevin's cool. But this guy's just this roided out dude. And Kevin's like, hey, what's up, Craig? And then this dude all of a sudden goes, Craig Coleman. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, uh-oh. Like that was hostile.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, you were fucking with my girlfriend. And I'm just like, nah, bro, I don't even.
Yeah, wasn't me.
This guy hasn't fucking even got a whiff of the JJ in like a long time, so I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And
then he says her name, and I'm like, had to go way back in my brain. I'm like, dude, that was high school. That's like I haven't seen her in like 2 years, dude. But that's what he's talking about. That's my ex-girlfriend. And yeah, I bumped into her in a hallway, hadn't seen her in months, and I was just like, hi. And that was kind of it. But homeboy held on to that.
Yeah.
And so so he had a problem with me, but luckily my friend Kevin just like, yeah, you ain't touching Craig, dude. Let's just leave that alone. Because this dude would have just destroyed me. There's just no way around that.
It's always good to have those people that know you that are kind of like, nah, he's cool. Like,
yeah. Kevin's just like
that has saved my ass a few times where like, I've gotten into it with people and they're like, you don't want to fuck with that guy, but luckily he's our friend, so we'll talk him down. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, Kevin and me, Kevin had love for me. So yeah, that wasn't happening. And so I get up to my buddy's apartment and they're all tripping out. They're like packing up and they're like, we got to get out of here.
Oh shit.
They're all, that guy's going to come back and rob us. Like they were already sure of it. Because this dude's about to go to prison in 3 months. The
roided up dude?
Yeah. So it's either that he was sentenced or he knew when he went to court that is what's going to happen, that he's going to go do a stretch for like, I think he was like going to go do 3 years. And so.
More like 2.5, but yeah.
Right. And so we load up, he's like, hey, I need you to take me over to Eric's. And I'm just like, all right. And so, and all the dope and the guns. So they were all in the trunk of my car. Like thinking back, like what a fucking moron, So we've got pounds of meth, pounds of weed, cash, scales, guns, every single thing that a cop is just like, pull you over, look in the trunk. That's 25.
Yeah, at least
25. I mean, I would have threw rat on him, like without a doubt. I already know. Thinking back at him, I would have been like, oh yeah, this is his dope. His buddy Dave, he's in a red truck. He went the other way. Yeah, I would have threw rat on all these guys. Yeah, I didn't.
I've seen the Shawshank Redemption. I'm not going, man.
These were not my boys. We weren't that tight. So yeah, but we get over there, and so unbeknownst to us, where we go to my buddy Eric's place, just up a block away is a Wendy's restaurant.
Yeah.
So the girl that's the manager at this Wendy's restaurant had bought dope from my guy earlier that day, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of around the same time Roid Man was there. Roid Man knows her.
Okay.
This is so Bakersfield, this incestuous drug culture. And so he had set up with her. She's the manager at this Wendy's. He had set up with her, hey, we're going to do a fake robbery on you tonight. And we're going to get that, the money from the Wendy's. So, hey, could you let that cat in? And so we're partying just down the street. So later that night at like 1:00 in the morning, he goes to this Wendy's to rob her. She gives him the Wendy's money. No problem. Maybe punches her or whatever to make it look like something happened. Well, then he tells her, now give me your dope and your money. Like he wanted everything. And she's just like, what? No, we're just doing the Wendy's stuff. And he's like, no, I want all of it. And she's like, fuck that. And so he just shoots her.
What a fucking prick.
Yeah, dude, just a greedy bastard. And so there's two guys sitting in the car. One of these guys, this totally regular guy that we went to high school with, which, when you read the paper, you were like, what? Like that dude got caught up in some shit.
Damn.
So they're waiting in the car because homie's just like, look, this is, and I've heard this kind of thing before. Like, this is nothing. This is no big deal. The girl already knows I'm gonna go in.
Yeah,
I got the gun, but it's just for show, and gonna get the money and go. And they're like, all right, that sounds simple enough. And then they hear blah blah blah, right? Dude. And then homie comes out, and dude, within like 2-3 days, those dudes all get arrested.
Yeah,
dude gets life. And the other two dudes did like 10 years.
Jesus, man.
Just for being in the car.
Yeah, and that's like every heist movie you ever watched where they're always like, there's that one guy that's a little nuts.
That's it. It just takes that one thing and it all goes south. And so after that, I was just like, oh my God. I was like, shit, it's just getting too fucking weird here. Because to be honest with you, that night, while that's happening, my buddy who doesn't do that shit, he's over here with this big pile making lines for us. And one, he spelt out the Slayer logo.
Oh, God.
like, if you're going to party in hell, this is what it looks like. I'm going to do the S, Just, ugh. And my dad lived in Alaska. And so I'd been up for 5 days.
God damn.
And I'm just sweating in my room, and I'm just like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And I waited until, because it's even like an hour earlier in Alaska.
Yeah. Oh,
so shit. I had to wait like at 8 a.m. Boom. I'm calling him at 8 a.m. Hey, what's up, Dad? Can I come live with you?
What do you have to? I'm coming up.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, sure.
Damn.
And so and I never ever did that shit again.
It's awesome that you never did it again. But then you ended up in Alaska. Did you I know you got into bands and stuff up there. Did you have any aspiration? Like you got up there to get away, and were you thinking like once you kind of came down off everything, were you like, all right, I'm gonna start my life up here in Alaska, or were you like, I got to get back to LA, or what was your mindset?
No, it was always get back to Cali.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
always. Yeah, for sure. I was like, fuck this place.
Yeah.
I mean, like within a week, I was known as
gonna
California
say,
Craig,
once you came
dude.
down from everything, you were like, all right, I'm better.
Yeah. So, I stayed up there like a year and I came back and then shit was the same. And so I just was like, never mind, I'll just stay up there for a while. And I stayed up there for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, the first 2 years was in this dinky ass little town, Soldotna, Alaska. Like, I mean, where I work at Union Station in LA, the train station,
Yeah.
like the whole town could fit in there.
Yeah. That's nuts.
You could literally put almost the whole town on the square footage of that place.
Yeah.
And, it was just too small for me. And then I went to Anchorage, Alaska, and I lived there for a bit. That's when I started doing comedy for a minute.
Yeah, because I remember you talked about you were doing shows up there. Did you start doing that right when you got there? Or?
Yeah, I did, like right away. I'm gonna try and look up this guy's name so I get his name right.
Because I remember you were telling that story. God, I can't remember if it was with Darren or with Matt but I remember you were saying that.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, like if there's people who want to do comedy, you can do it. Like all it takes is, a room and a mic.
It's true. It's really true. So I looked up that there was a place called the Annexer Building, and they did stand-up comedy, and they had like a amateur night. And so I went down there, signed up. It's just 2 other people that were doing it. And I went up, did my thing, and got a good response. Again, it was stupid, like, dumb as hell, but it wasn't bad. And so his name is Paul Herman. Okay. He played Beansy on The Sopranos. He's the guy that ends up in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Hilarious dude, right? His stand-up is hilarious. So he was up there doing stand-up, and he calls me over. He goes, "Hey, come here, kid." Total New York guy, right?
Yeah.
This guy is just
he was up there just doing a run.
Yeah, he was up there just doing a run and doing some stand-up. And he's like, "Come here, I'm gonna tell you something, kid." And he's like, he goes, "I don't know you from shit." He goes, "I give 2 fucks about you." He goes, "You could walk right out that door and get hit by a car. I'm not going to shed one fucking tear." And I was just like, yeah. I go, this is the dude from Goodfellas. Like, I was like, this is so fantastic. And he goes, "You got one thing, kid." He goes, "Your jokes are shit." He goes, "They'll get better." He goes, "But you got stage presence." He goes, "And that's the most
awesome,
important thing." He goes, you need to keep doing this. He goes, "You need to keep at it." He goes, "You're good enough." And I was just like, fuck yeah, thank you.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. So I was just like, I always remembered that. And then I would come back to that place a couple times, but there was 2 people that they were the comedians in Anchorage, right?
Yeah.
And one was the dude, he like also worked at the bar. He was just some old burnt out heavy metal dude, and he was not fucking funny at all. He thought he was, but he was just not funny. And he probably, for Anchorage being the guy. And then there was this other guy who was just kind of this burnout regular dude, but he was pretty funny. He was smart. He was really smart. And neither one of them really liked me because the out-of-towners are talking to him. The waitresses love him, because I'm like this fresh-faced kid who's just like,
that's the thing, especially in those kind of towns. Like, it's the same, like you said, it's the same 2 fucking people.
Yeah, they were just over these guys. That's all it was. Yeah, they were just over these guys. And so I went back there like 2 or 3 times, and then they were like, "Sorry, kid, we're closing." Like, that was it.
That's what I remember. Yeah, it was just over.
It was a wrap, and there's just nowhere else in town to do it. Just forget it. And then I just started doing the band thing, and that was great. That was great.
Yeah.
And it's liquidbandade.com if you ever want to check that out.
Check it out, everybody. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Aid is spelled ADE, and all the music's there for free. It's good enough, and a lot of kids loved it. We were the punk band, and the bands that opened up for us were the punk bands, and that's kind of how Anchorage is. It's like there's the metal guys, the punk rock guys, and then you do it for 2 or 3 years, and then you quit, and your scene's dead. The scene's gone. It's dead. Like, they quit.
Yeah.
And then but then the people that went to your shows become the scene because now they're older. They start playing. Yeah. Like I think one of my bandmates was just, I remember talking to them and they were like, nah, I think we should just give this music away for free. And maybe we'll tour around the country and just do free shows. It just kept saying free, free, free. Yeah. And I was like the only one that ever worked and, you know, had a regular job.
Yeah.
Like I remember like these guys are serious, like, you know, almost homeless punk rockers. But you know, I remember being the first time I played with these guys, they were just like, who smells like soap? And I was just like, guilty.
Yeah, that's me.
You know, I pulled up in a new car. Everybody walks out to look at my car like, whoa, this fucking guy is rich. I'm like, no, it's called a fucking 9 to 5, dude. I work 9 to 5.
That's the bananas things with artists is I mean, to a lesser extent, I see it here where there are certain guys that are just, you know, like, no, I'm just going to do the bare minimum to pay rent and sleep on a couch. And then, and it's like, it's not a starving artist thing. It's like, you still barely do shows. You're just lazy as shit. Yeah.
And this guy was our guitarist. I mean, he was just a goddamn musical genius.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was.
That's awesome.
He really fucking was. And, you know, I've often said if we lived in LA or Seattle or New York, he would have accidentally become famous just because somebody else would have been like, I can make a ton of money off of this.
Yep.
And just try and stir it in the right direction. But then again, he's the kind of guy, if he got too commercial on his ass, he's like, fuck this. He'd be out.
Yeah.
He would have been out.
Because there are some people who are so like about it that they're like, no.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine that I work with. He's going to be on the show in 2 weeks. He owns a record store here in Jacksonville, and he's also a musician. Really cool guy.
Excellent.
I met him because he would let us do shows at his record shop. But he's always like, he'll bring up these names of artists, and I'm always like, never heard of him. He goes, yeah, of course you never heard of him because he put out like one album every 7 years and like worked as like a night janitor somewhere to pay rent. And I'm like, yeah, but if he's as good as you say he is, he goes, yeah, but it's about the music, man. And I'm always like, dude, that's bananas.
It is bananas. You have to have that extra drive to actually want to get your stuff out there.
Yeah, there's a whole other gear. And I mean, you and I know just from doing what we do, it's one of those things where it's like, what do you mean I gotta post and then I gotta repost and then I gotta do this and I gotta do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and she does social media stuff. And she's like, oh, yeah, are you on TikTok? And I'm like, no, I just kind of do the Instagram. She goes, oh, you don't do the Twitter either? And I goes, no. She goes, we have to post and you have to post at these specific times. And then like you have to do the sponsorship ads and try and get. And I'm like, no, that's not. No.
That's too much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just keep putting it out. And if people like it, they like it. And then it'll grow naturally.
Right.
That other shit is like, you know, you see those sponsored ads on Instagram. You're like, who the fuck is this guy?
I go right past it.
Yeah. I'm like, this isn't. Sometimes I'll stop. Like if it's a stand-up thing and I'm like, I'm so glad I don't do that. I'm so glad I don't force it onto people.
Yeah. No, if it's a band, sometimes I'll listen to it if they look grimy enough for me or, you know, if they look like they made their jeans torn, I'm out.
Yeah.
But,
God, that fake, like we're punk. It's like, no, you're not.
No, you're probably not. Probably not. The like I like a band they're called Sleep, and they put out an album in 92, which was amazing. Then they'll put out one in like 97, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, here's and it's me and like they got quite a few fans.
Yeah.
But then they just put out an album in like 2018, I think it is. It's called The Sciences, and it's amazing, but it's one of those bands that they only put out a record every like decade and you accidentally hear about it and you're like, fuck yeah, and it's like the best album ever.
And that's so crazy how like it's just like, I don't know, it's like, don't you want to do, I always think like, don't you want to do more? And they're like, no, we're gonna do it perfect.
Yeah.
And if it comes out once a decade, it comes out once a decade, but it's going to be perfect, which we see nowadays in this era of like now. A lot of some of the content that gets put out, you're kind of like, you should have waited. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't like, come on, man.
Yeah, you didn't need to just put out another one already.
Yeah, we got it. It's the same
Yeah,
thing, just different
for
names.
sure.
Like, we got it.
For sure.
So when did you, so you came back to LA and then you went back to Alaska because you're kind of like, not yet. And then you were up there how much longer? You said a few years?
So 97, me and the wife, the band was pretty much done. We recorded a CD.
Okay.
And that was as good as that was gonna get. And the band thing, like I said, they wanted to stay in Alaska. And I'm like, no, because they're Alaskan. They're Alaskan people.
From, yeah.
And I'm like, nah, I can't do this. And I remember me and the wife were going to the mall and just come across this sky bridge. And winter's about to come, mind you.
Winter's coming.
Yeah, it's like August. And there was just this picture outside of a travel agency of palm trees. And it was for Hawaii, but I like,
yeah,
California. And I just looked at the wife and I was just like, dude, you want to go to California? And she's like, yeah,
let's do it.
Fuck yeah, let's get out of this.
That's awesome.
And so we just bought our tickets, and literally the day we left, it just started snowing, and just this relentless snow. And I'm just like, out of here.
Yeah.
Done.
I've never seen snow.
Yeah.
I've never.
I mean,
and it was funny because when we were getting ready to move to New York, everyone's like, oh, it's gonna get cold, and I was like, yeah. Let me not, because our situation, my girlfriend and I, is very similar to what you're talking about with your wife. It was very much like, because I had done comedy. I started comedy when I was 22 in South Florida, and I had done a couple of open mics. So I changed all my social media to comedian because I had done a couple of open mics. And then
as one does.
Yeah. I got my first DUI. I had done 2 open mics, and the officer was like, what's your occupation? I said, I'm a comic.
Yeah.
You put that in the report. That's on public record.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then I was getting drunk all the time, and it was bad. Like you're talking about, like I was talking about, like I look at some of my old joke books and I'm like, this isn't even like, this is edgelord shit. That's not even funny. It's just like me, like playing into this like frat boy, like date rape character.
Sure.
And I was like, this is horrific. So then fast forward to 2015, when I fell off the wagon, I like fell real hard, and I stopped doing comedy for like 3 years. And then I started back in 2018, which is, so fast forward to like last year, that same exact thing happened. My girlfriend has always wanted to live in New York, and I've always wanted to like pursue comedy in a bigger market. And we just kind of looked at each other one day and we're like, what, do you just want to go? Like, why not? Like, let's just go.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah. And it's bananas that you did the same thing coming back to California. It's like,
yeah.
Fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, we moved to Bakersfield first for a minute, and then my friend Brian, head for Korn, he called up and he's just like, hey, what are you doing, man? Because we'd been in Bakersfield like 3 months, and I go, oh, we're just in Bakersfield right now, saving up money. And he goes, you never will. He goes, you'll never save enough. He goes, you'll never leave. He goes, you got to just go, dude. You just got to do it. And dude, he's right. He's right. You just have to do it.
That's so like, it's so true. Cause I lived in Oklahoma City for a brief period, and people would be like, oh my God, you're from Florida. That's awesome. And I'd be like, you can move. Like, you don't have to stay here.
Exactly.
And they're like, yeah, but my family's here, and I'm going to move. I just got to say, I want to pay this bill, or I want to get caught up on that. And it's like, if you keep setting these limits, you'll never. That's why for us, it was so important to have a drop dead date. We're like, no, we're going, all things considered, a pandemic had started.
Then there's that.
Yeah. So like we couldn't leave, but all things considered, we're like, no, it doesn't matter how much we have in the savings account. Like, we're going, because we wanted to save up X amount of dollars so we could live comfortably. But it got to the point where it was like, it doesn't matter if we have $5,000 or $1,000, like we're going on this day. And so that, and then the world fell apart. But.
And to be honest, nobody tells a good joke who's living comfortably.
Yeah.
And nobody's album I bought was, really good album that we're like, oh yeah, I got tons of money and we're living really large.
It's so funny that you say that, because I was talking to because everyone in my family, like my older brother has a PhD, my older sister's like has a like everyone's really smart and like has really good careers, and they're basically like in the trenches of that life. And it's so funny because I was talking to, I think it was my uncle or somebody the other day, and they go, "So, but you're 33 now. You're going to be 33." And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, but you don't you want like retirement and like a steady pay?" And I just remember I was on the phone. I was like, "Listen, there is no plan B. Like, it's comedy. I will be extensively poor for the rest of my life as long as I can do comedy. Like, there is nothing else."
Yeah.
And it just blows their mind because they're like, "It means that much to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, that's what we're doing."
Yeah. I'm already dead inside, buddy.
Yeah, like,
so let's do it.
And it's like you said, like there's nobody that I listen to, especially early stuff. There's nobody where it's like, oh yeah, my life is great. Here's why.
Yeah, there's a reason why Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction is an amazing record.
Yeah.
And everything after it kind of sucks.
Yep. Well,
Use Your Illusion's not great.
No, it's not. And there's certain comedians that bands, comedians, any kind of artist where it's like, oh, they've lost something, like they've lost some sort of edge.
Yeah.
Because there are some specials that I'll watch now, and I mean, who the fuck am I? I'm some nobody from Jacksonville, but I study comedy. Like, I've been watching it. This might make you feel old, but I've been watching it since I was like 6, and I remember recording on VHS like Mitch Hedberg and stuff on the Comedy Central Presents.
Okay, yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
back
much
then.
older. Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg was like one of the first. You say Carlin and Pryor, I say Hedberg and Burr.
Sure. I gotta see Hedberg.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah. I saw
crazy.
him with Bobcat Goldthwait.
What?
Yeah, just all these people, and that weed dude. I forget his name. The guy that does everything weed related.
Doug Benson.
Yes. Before they were that.
Yeah.
And it was at this little place. I forget what it's called. And yeah, you just sitting down there on the you sit on the floor because if you can't pay to eat, you get to sit on the floor.
Oh wow!
In front of the stage, and my buddy who was an agent told me, go to this show. He goes, don't pay to eat. He goes, just sit on the floor, watch the comedy. And I was glad I did. Yeah, Mitch Hedberg was one of the people, and he went up and did his thing, and I was just like blown away. Then just a night of being blown away.
Yeah, it's astounding because he only has like a little over an hour of material that you can see, and it's so weird because like watching it and then just the writing and the setups and how misdirect he does.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Like I've been doing it 10 years. Like I've watched a lot of comedy. I study comedy. But just watching certain people, it's like, oh, that's different. Like that's a whole other level of.
Yeah, and that's the thing with comedy is everybody's got a thing. Everybody. There's a group of people that will enjoy what you do. Like people that like, I hate Carrot Top. Well, yeah, well, there's a lot of people that really love that guy.
Yeah.
And I get that, I get why they like him. I get, why he draws a crowd, and those people probably are not going to dig my stuff. And that's totally cool. There's a whole bag of degenerates out there that'll be like, Coleman's my guy.
It's so funny you mentioned that. It brings it full circle because I was, shout out to Eric Allen Wendell, full circle. I was at a show and it hit me. I was listening. I think it was Kyle Kinane. I was listening to his podcast and he said, I don't need everybody. I don't need all of you. Like if you're going to be a dick to me on social media, go the fuck away. And I remember listening to that, and like that next night I had a show and I got up there because I talk a lot about getting sober, my alcoholism. I've got like weird scars all over my body that I joke about on stage.
And you don't know where they came from.
Across my face. Well, a lot of them are either, being bullied as a kid. And then when I got older, I was trying to show how tough I was. So I'd like put lighters out and shit on my arm.
Yeah.
So I talk about all that on stage, like depression, anxiety, like suicide, all that. Cause I've been Baker acted twice too. So I talk about all that stuff. And I was doing a set and I opened the set with a joke about suicide and silence, which is worse than groans, is just silence.
Sure.
And then it clicked in my head and I literally looked at the audience and said, I was like, oh, I don't need any of, like, none of you are going to get this, but there is a group of people out there when
Yeah.
I do like shows that for like degenerates, like you said, and it's like, oh, they love it.
Oh yeah,
So
dude.
it's like we don't need everybody. We just need enough people to fill a room.
There's been a ton of times where I've told a joke and I've had the whole room in the palm of my hand, and then I told a joke that went too far and only one person laughed, and I go, there's my guy.
Right there.
That's my guy.
That was me in Dayton, Ohio. My older brother was the only one who was, I hate to say it, but seemed like the only one who was like with it enough to get where I was going.
Yeah.
He's dying. He was dying. And like, not like the fake, like, oh, I'm your older brother, so I have to laugh. Like, he was loving it. And then after the show, everyone kind of looked at, like, they were kind of like, yeah, that was good. And
yeah, I'll never invite my family to a show ever again. My sister's the only person allowed because she loves it and she brings people.
Gets it. Yeah.
I mean, the one she used to bring all these people to my shows all the time, and I forget she's a teacher. Well, then so they're all teachers, you know.
Yeah, that's her friend circle.
You know, most of them are special ed teachers. They're all really nice people. And then when me and my wife moved down here and she starts working in the district, all these people are like, oh
God,
is your husband Craig? And she's like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, we've seen him do comedy. And she's like, oh yeah, so a lot of that happened a long time ago. Those are old stories. They're all, yeah, we get it, it's cool.
It's the same thing, same exact thing. It's
right.
Whenever my girlfriend comes to a show, it's always like, oh, you're dating him? She's like, he's not like that anymore. It was a long time ago.
They're just stories.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stories. Oh man. Well, this was a blast, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, Brandon. It was great.
Go ahead, plug everything one more time. Instagram, Twitter, your podcast, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Instagram, Craig Coleman 76. Twitter, Team Coleman 76. Craig Coleman on Facebook. Liquid Bandade. The aid is spelled ADE.com if you want to hear that free music. And and then also I'm on the Fullcharge Power Hour.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
All
Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Good, man. I'm glad you had fun. This is the first LA comic, legit LA comic on the podcast.
No, nice.
Yeah, I can stop getting all my friends from Jacksonville. I'm like, nah, I'm big time now. I got real people now.
That's right. Word.
Thank you everybody for listening. Again, check me out, BrennanTComedy.com. I've got upcoming dates because I live on the East Coast where nobody cares about science. So I've got dates in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, all coming up in the next few months, and Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next week.